it's essential that you are familiar with our emergency procedures. Bathroom facilities have been provided for you on the 3rd floor. The alarms are both audible and visible. No evacuation drills are planned for the duration of your event, so if the alarm sounds, please treat this as a real emergency event. Your muster point is the Brian Lara Promenade. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate the auditorium immediately by using the nearest emergency exits. Exits are located to the left and right of the stage and on the upper entranceway. Please take a moment to note the exit nearest you. Use the evacuation stairwells only. Do not use the elevators. Follow the directional arrows and signage and proceed out of the building. You are then required to assemble at the Brian Lara Promenade. Do not re-enter the building until instructed to do so. On behalf of the management of the Urban Development Corporation, we trust you will have an enjoyable experience here. Thank you.
All right, so are we ready? I mean, we have some young people in the crowd here. Are we ready? Nice, let's start. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of Trade and Industry is at the forefront of government business. Leading this charge is a strong woman who has served as Member of Parliament since 2007. Her strategic intent is to improve the export capacity of the local manufacturing sector and position Trinidad and Tobago as the business and trade hub of the Caribbean. She is also responsible for bringing this She Trades initiative to the shores of Trinidad and Tobago and making the local TT She Trades platform a reality. I now invite Senator, the Honorable Paula Gopi-Schoon, Minister of Trade and Industry, to deliver today's opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Please let me acknowledge Mrs. Sharon Rowley, the wife of the Honorable Prime Minister, but attorney at law, and mother, grandmother, a woman exceptional. The Honorable Camille Robinson Regis will join us shortly, but Senator the Honorable Alison West. They're all my sisters. Could please stand? The Honorable, yes? The Honorable Ayanna Webster Roy, Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for Gender and Child Affairs. The Honorable Lisa Morris Julian, Minister in the Ministry of Education. The Honorable Dr. Nayan Gatsby-Dolly, Minister of Education. How could I have forgotten you? Minister Randall Karim, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Distinguished speakers, Dr. Winnet McIntosh Ambrose and Dr. Kuswa Odardine Edwards. Very specially invited guests, women of the Trinidad and Tobago She Trades Hub, students or young future leaders, teachers, staff of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, export TT staff, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen all. I'm so happy to be here. Good morning and happy International Women's Day. I'm delighted to be here to celebrate International Women's Day 2024 at the Ministry of Trade and Industries She Trades Business Seminar under the United Nations theme, Counter in, Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress. This year's theme captures the essence of the work we at the Ministry of Trade and Industry and Export TT have been pursuing under the Trinidad and Tobago She Trades Hub. The main objective of She Trades is to connect women entrepreneurs to international markets. With the establishment of the National Hub in October 2020, the first of its kind in the Caribbean, we have been working assiduously to count you in, the women of Trinidad and Tobago, as valuable players in the business and trading community. We understand that for any country to progress, there must be full participation of women in the labor force. The World Economic Forum estimates that advancing women's employment could add US $12 trillion to global GDP. and has the potential to boost economic output in countries as much as 35%. So that's your goal, that's your opportunity. Be part of it. Today, we have over 700 local women-owned businesses registered and subscribed to the Trinidad and Tobago She Trades Hub. And through our various programs and initiatives under the She Trades Hub, we have been investing in you to accelerate your progress. In fact, since the launch of the initiative, over 160 women across Trinidad and Tobago were trained in the areas of identifying and assessing export markets, developing export plans, export readiness, and following up on export leads in order to further strengthen their business skills. 24 female entrepreneurs received funding to participate and showcase their products at international and regional trade shows in Madrid, St. Lucia, and Barbados. Export TT, our national export promotion agency, is working with these women to follow up on leads generated. And 66 women-owned businesses benefited from funding to participate at our local trade shows and markets, including the Export Centers Company Limited Craft Market and the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association Trade and Investment Convention. And through these initiatives, these women-owned businesses were able to boost their visibility, increase sales, and expand business connections. We'll be all pleased to know that 9 Trinidad and Tobago women-led businesses representing the food and beverage, beauty cosmetics, handicraft, apparel, and health services sectors, through their registration on the She Trades Hub, were selected to participate at this year's She Trades Summit in Abu Dhabi. These women had the opportunity to attend 2 days of panel discussions, masterclasses, and specific networking sessions with other female business owners from around the world. And these are just some of the successes to date. And later in the program, you will hear personal testimonials from some of the women. Today, we have sought to bring together powerful female leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs, along with the next generation of young female leaders in Trinidad and Tobago from amongst our schools for an inspiring and thought-provoking session. And to the business students today with us, I encourage you to capitalize on your academic studies and harness your innate ingenuity, passion, and creativity to cultivate new ideas that may be turned into valuable goods and services and business opportunities for our country. Entrepreneurship is about more than just starting a business. It is about creating your own path, shaping your own future, and making a meaningful impact on society. And by choosing entrepreneurship, you are choosing to be architects of your own future. I encourage you to continue to strive for excellence in every aspect of your lives. And to the businesswomen, let me take this opportunity to congratulate you for joining the Hub and taking advantage of the opportunities to start and grow your businesses. I encourage those of you who have not yet done so to come on board the platform. I'm pleased to have with us this morning 2 distinguished guest speakers, Dr. Bennett McIntosh Ambrose, Trinidad and Tobago-born engineer turned entrepreneur and 2-time Food Network champion, and Miss Akusa Dardane Edwards, gender and entrepreneur specialist and founder of the Enabling Enterprise Project in Trinidad and Tobago. I know that we have another special guest who will give her testimonial. And it is my hope that this seminar will inspire you along your entrepreneurial journey, whether you are pursuing business-related studies, now contemplating being an entrepreneur, in the early startup phase, or you have already started and you have an established business. I want to express the continued commitment of the Ministry of Trade and Industry towards supporting the She Trades project, and women in business and trade in Trinidad and Tobago. And I look forward to your continued participation as we partner to create opportunities for women to succeed in business, where voices are heard and contributions are valued. And by harnessing the full potential of women, we certainly can drive economic growth, foster innovation, and build a more prosperous and sustainable future for all of us in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Gopi Skoon, for sharing your vision and strength with us. You have not only set the stage for an engaging and enlightening event, but you've also highlighted the very many opportunities for our future leaders here today. Ladies and gentlemen, the International Trade Center, the joint agency of the World Trade Organization and the United Nations, is the agency that in 2015 launched this flagship Women and Trade program, the ITC She Trades Initiative. To deliver short remarks virtually is Ms. Pamela Coke Hamilton, the Executive Director of the International Trade Center. I invite you to turn your attention to the screen.
Good morning and happy International Women's Day. I'm delighted to share a few remarks as we celebrate the extraordinary women entrepreneurs of Trinidad and Tobago, along with the people and institutions who work day in and day out to support them. First, I'd like to give my warm thanks to the Trinidad and Tobago Ministry of Trade and Industry and to Export TT for making this International Women's Day seminar possible and for championing the She Trades Hub and the women-led businesses it serves. I also want to give a shout out to Minister Paula Gopi Skoon, who has been such a champion for this. It's been a banner year for this hub, and I know 2024 will be its best one yet. Already, 2023 gave us tangible proof, as this year's International Women's Day theme says that if you invest in Trinidad and Tobago's women, you can accelerate progress by leaps and bounds. We've seen it in trade missions to St. Lucia and Barbados, and the business opportunities it created for women entrepreneurs. We've seen it at Christmas craft markets, where dozens of women entrepreneurs brought their products and developed lasting connections. We've seen it in Geneva, where representatives from this hub, alongside She Trades Hub focal points from around the world, joined forces last year to share their experiences and ideas with policymakers at the World Trade Organization. We've come a long way together, and already this year we're seeing these efforts reach new heights, including in Abu Dhabi during the WTO ITC high-level event on Women and Trade and She Trades Summit. Now it's time to take these impressive results and kick things into high gear. It's a big year for our region as we look ahead to the 4th International Conference on Small Island Developing States in Antigua and Barbuda, and the critical conversations we'll be having there on how to chart a course towards resilient prosperity. Today, 228,000 women in the Caribbean are self-employed, and 9 out of every 10 of these women have no staff of their own, meaning that they run every aspect of their businesses from start to finish. It's a heavy load, and one that we can and should make lighter. And despite some big strides, women still make up less than 1/3 of self-employed workers in our region. If we're to achieve that goal of resilient prosperity, we can and we must change that. And together, I know we can and we will. ITC stands ready to work with you all so that more women in Trinidad and Tobago can achieve their entrepreneurship dreams and in turn open up greater opportunities for themselves, their families, and their communities. Thank you all, and I wish you a successful seminar.
Ms. Coke Hamilton, how do you all feel about the initiative so far? Yeah? And how do you all feel about it being right here in Trinidad and Tobago? Pretty amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, the She Trades Initiative champions and empowers women in business on a global scale. It is through the establishment of the She Trades platform that Trinidad and Tobago's female entrepreneurs have made incredible strides towards economic empowerment. I invite Ms. Tricia Chin, Director of Procon Logs Limited, to share with you her experience on being a part of the She Trades Hub.
A pleasant good morning to Mrs. Sharon Rowley, our honorable ministers and members of parliament, permanent secretaries, the She Trades Hub, and to all women and honored guests. Good morning, all. 2 weeks ago, I was at the International Trade Center's She Trades Conference. I sat together with some fellow Trinities, some of whom are here today in the audience. Congratulations, ladies. A Ugandan and a Ghanaian, and other women from around the world. Each of us had varying levels of tertiary education. Each of us had a business or a business idea that we had developed from the ground up in the belief that our product was unique or that we could do it, whatever it was, whether real estate services, home for the aged, grow and sell cotton, and do it better. She Trades offers a woman-led platform that connects women from diverse backgrounds. The beauty of the connection is that it is direct. There is no middleman. Women can sign up and start accessing the platform, which offers information, tools, and systems geared towards women. It is possible to say that there are so many women-oriented centers, activities, events. What use is there for one more? Last year, I returned to swimming class after undergoing foot surgery. I was committed to moving forward with my rehabilitation and had planned to return to my former level of fitness or get as close as I could. The only problem was that I had somehow ended up in an intense class with 2 other swimmers, both male, both taller, both swimming together for some time. No matter how hard I tried, I lagged behind, while they waited for me to finish so that we could all move on together to the next exercise. I lasted 1 month. No matter how we try, it is inevitable that we would engage differently at different points in our lives. The She Trades Hub and local chapters asked the question, what would happen if women were given a space uniquely theirs to learn, grow, and exchange, not just in their countries, but together internationally? Sitting with women from around the world, interacting with them in person and online, you learn that your dream is not too small, your power is not too little, your goal and your passion to succeed is shared. You see that even if you are a woman alone, you can try and keep trying, setting new goals as far and as fast as you can. My name is Trisha Chin. Today I am here as the director of Procons Limited, a startup that offers advisory services in regulatory matters, procurement, project and contract management. I am proud to be here today and as part of the She Trades initiative. And on behalf of all the She Trades alumni, I'd like to say thank you to the creators and keepers of this space. We are all looking forward to more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chen, for sharing your experience on the impact of the hub. And I don't know about everyone else, but I feel inspired and motivated. What do you all think? Yeah? Hold on to your dreams, guys. They're uniquely yours. So I now invite you to turn your attention to the screen for a video presentation of the She Trades Hub.
Welcome to the She Trades Trinidad and Tobago Hub's International Women's Day celebration event. The Ministry of Trade and Industry strongly believes in empowering and supporting the potential of our women-owned and women-led businesses. As we highlight some of the remarkable entrepreneurs who are making waves in their respective industries, we celebrate you, all of you, all that you are, and all that we will help you to become.
Hi everyone, I am Chef Jeanette Marcel, the creative mind behind Handmade by Jeanette Company. I have always wanted to create my own agro-processing business, my own line of nutritious products such as clean granola, unique sauces, and spice rum. And with the support and resources from SheTrade, I have been able to turn my hobby into a successful export business. Join us, and together we can make dreams come true.
At Christie Clothing, we believe that fashion is a powerful means of self-expression. Our stylish and vibrant outfits are designed to empower women and make them feel confident. SheTrades has provided invaluable opportunities for us to showcase our creativity and to connect with like-minded individuals. Come, join the SheTrades movement today, and let's create a fashionable future together.
We've been on quite a journey, assessing export readiness, generating export leads, the annual Trade and Investment Conference, not to mention regional trade missions to Barbados and to St. Lucia. And we've only just begun.
As a master shoe designer, I take pride in creating shoes that are not only comfortable but also tell a story. SheTrade has given us a platform to expand our clientele and to connect with an international audience. Join us and let us walk towards a future where women entrepreneur thrives.
My name is June Alfred Rogerson. I am the owner and founder of Pinkberry Cosmetics. Pinkberry brand is not just a cosmetics and personal care company. It's an experience. Thanks to SheTrades, we have been able to grow our business regionally and expand beyond our wildest dreams. Join the SheTrades and we can create a skincare revolution.
These incredible women-owned businesses are just a glimpse of the immense talent and potential within Trinidad and Tobago. Join SheTrades today and become a part of a supportive network that nurtures and promotes women entrepreneurs. Let's count her in. Invest in women, accelerate progress, and together we will build a thriving economy and a brighter future. Visit our website and join SheTrades now.
Woman, with our talents and dreams, we could do anything, I mean, men too. But woman, International Women's Day. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce today's first speaker. She is a remarkable individual who embodies the essence of social entrepreneurship and empowerment. This speaker has garnered accolades, including the prestigious titles of Social Entrepreneur of the Year and Caribbean Female Social Entrepreneur of the Year from Global Innovation Partners. Her dedication to fostering positive change extends beyond recognition, as she was honored as one of the 2019 Women's Economic Ambassadors by Diversity RD Global. She has dedicated her expertise as a gender and entrepreneurship specialist to collaborate with women's business support agencies, policymakers, and entrepreneurs globally. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Ms. Akuswa Dardane Edwards.
Good morning, Mrs. Sharon Rowley, honorable ministers and members of parliament, students and teachers, Ministry of Trade officials and Export TT officials, ladies and gentlemen. Are we ready? This morning, I want to share some of the stories that I have been exposed to throughout the world as a gender and entrepreneurship specialist. I heard some startling statistics before I came here. 80% of women in business believed that they were not enough. I didn't say not doing enough, not enough. 75% of women believed that they had imposter syndrome. And 91% of women had issues with their bodies. Let me remind each and every one of you, we are magic. Magic. Co-creators with God of human life. And I could go on and on about how women, against all the odds, made differences in their communities by feeding the communities, educating their communities, freeing their communities. We are magic. And think about a simple thing, like, well, for me, let me speak for myself. When I would get home from school, I would open the refrigerator. There was nothing on the stove. And then in 20 minutes, my mother would make a meal out of seemingly nothing. So to me, we were always magic. So when I saw those statistics, I was truly shocked. So I wanted to start off by reminding each and every one of you that you are magic. And the second thing I wanted to remind you before I get into the stories, each and every one of us, we are born worthy. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to prove it. You don't have to beg for it. You don't have to borrow it. It's in you. It's innate. You are worthy. And when we remember the magic and the innate worthiness, I think those statistics will change. Do you agree? Yes. So I want you to always remember the magic and the self-worth. So what does a gender and entrepreneurship specialist do? I guess that is just a fancy term for supporting other women business owners. And that has been my privilege over the past 10 or so years, going to different countries to support women who had an idea and took it from what we would say nothing to something. And I want to share the stories of two women who changed my life by working with them. And I'm sure there are women in your life that you don't even know they are making an impact on you. But these two women, Amy and Josephine, Amy, her idea was to work in corporate and to have the best education that she could. But somehow she got into business, and I'll get to that. And Amy did everything she could to go to Harvard, which she did. She graduated from Harvard and she got into some difficulties, got a corporate job, had a baby, and was let go from the job due to downsizing. But if you taste Amy's cakes, you might lick from your elbow, come down. She was, I don't know, it was like a gift. And she decided to go to the farmer's market and sell these cakes because she had to make money. And she realized that I have this degree, I cannot get a job, but let me use what's in me. Long story short, the buyer for American Airlines came to the market and asked her if she can have these cakes on 80 aircrafts. And she lives in a one-bedroom apartment with her daughter with a small stove. She said yes. Magic. So that's Amy. And Josephine, who, I mean, this lady is from Uganda, and I met her in Ottawa, Canada at a meeting, and she came into this room like a warrior. They were asking women about giving aid to women in East Africa. And she said, I don't want your aid. I have other things that are more important to me. And I said, oh, that's brave. So, long story short, again, I ended up in Uganda. And these two women took what they had in them. Josephine told me, she said, we have 900 women in our village. We're coming out of a 27-year civil war. Women are not allowed to own business or land, but we are going to be the #1 agriculture business in East Africa, maybe the world. And I laughed. What were the things that made these women successful? What were the things that changed lives when these women touched what they touched? Apart from the magic and the self-worth, the first thing is an unwavering belief in themselves. The doubt would come, the challenges would come, but you could not shake the belief they had in themselves that they knew in their knower. They knew that everything would be okay. The second thing is keeping their commitments to themselves first. Because when you keep commitments to yourself, it builds trust of self and others. And even from that, I learned from them, and I have on my mirror, which I see every day, I commit today to you. It's a funny thing looking in the mirror and committing something to yourself every day. Because when you let yourself down, it hits differently. And when you start to build that trust in yourself, you start to build trust in others. So, unwavering self-belief, keeping commitments to yourself. And the third big thing, holding yourself accountable to something, whether it's the source, whether it's the Most High, whether it's your children, making your children proud. Holding yourself accountable allows you to not make excuses. And there are times when you may have to renegotiate some of the commitments to yourself. But when you trust yourself, it wouldn't come with guilt and shame and projection. How many of us feel guilty when we have to rest? We have to rest, but we feel guilty. How many of us feel ashamed of not doing work every day? But life has a way of talking to you, and life will slam you down. And so, holding yourself accountable to something keeps you on a straight path. If you don't hold yourself accountable to something, you're a dangerous person. You'll do anything. For me, I hold myself accountable to what my grandmother did for me. She, God rest her soul, she's always in the back of my head. Am I making my grandmother proud? Am I making my grandmother proud? My grandmother, who had to clean toilets, clean houses, she had to leave school at age 13 because her father said, girls don't go to school, even though she got, she told me it was an exhibition, I think it's the SCA equivalent. And she would do her brother's homework, who he was able to go to presentation college, and she would do his homework from Form 1 to Form 5. I am my grandmother's biggest dream come true. So I hold myself accountable to her. I don't know what you will hold yourself accountable to, but that's what I hold myself accountable to. The other thing is having a clear vision. Josephine's vision was to become the #1 agricultural seed company in East Africa. And think about it. Not allowed to own businesses, not allowed to own land. She wanted a business with land. So people thought she was crazy. Amy, her vision was to have her cake on every American airline flight. Very simple vision. What is your vision for yourself? Is it clear? Does it change? It might change, but it has to be something that is simple, that you could follow through on, and takes you out of where you are, bigger than you. So, holding yourself accountable, unwavering self-belief, keeping a commitment to yourself, having a clear vision. And the big one, having the courage to take action and listen to your intuition. That is when you can take risks and do things differently. And I always remember we were looking for money for the business in Uganda. And we would go to the bank, you know, dress nicely. You know, we're looking for money, so we're gonna show up as we should. And each bank would be like, no, you can't own a business. What are you talking about? So after the 5th time of hearing no, I said to Josephine, I'm done. You know, let us do something else. And she said, you know, Madam Akosua, do we have the money yet? No? Okay. And she would disappear into the bush, literal bush, literally for days. And then she would come back and she'd be like, ah! And I'm like, what? What is in the bush? And then we would go again, and the next 5 no's. And she would disappear and come back. Ah! What? And then I ended up saying, well, Josephine, what happens in the bush? And she said, Madam Akosua, you don't have a bush? A place where you go to get quiet and listen? You don't have that? Oh, no, Madam Akosua. Find your bush. Find your bush. So she went into the bush again. 46 banks told us no. 46. She went into the bush and she came back out. Madam Akosua, where is Norway? Like, is it in that bush? I said, Norway, the country? She's like, yes, we are going to get our money from Norway. That is what came to me. $1.5 million US later from Norway. The company became the #1 agricultural company in Uganda. So when you have the courage to listen and act on your intuition, there's nothing that could stop you. Let people say that you're crazy, let people don't understand, but that's your vision, it's your intuition. God, the source, however you call it, is speaking to you. And intuition, you have to act immediately. It's not going to wait for you. Life is just going to show you, I'm giving you what, but you don't want to listen. So, those are the things that those women taught me. Loss, betrayal, I am worthy. Illness, sickness, loss of friends, people don't want to give me money. I am worthy. That is what they taught me. And the final thing, seeking outside validation as your only source of praise. You see that? Stop it. Because when somebody, especially somebody you want, to tell you that, yeah, good job, or you did well, and they don't, you're gonna fold. Yes, it's lovely to get praise and outside validation, but don't rely on it as your sole source. So, as I close, I want to remind you, one, of your magic. Two, to remember you don't have to bargain for your worth, and it's your business. Your business is about you. Your business is about you. Your business is not you. It's what you do. It's not who you are. And when you remember that, along with all the other things I just said, I think you'll be fine. So may the Most High continue to bless all of you and to remember that you are worthy. Thank you.
Wow. Dream, vision, accountability, self-belief, commitment, and courage. Perfect recipe for success. Thank you again. And let me hear you all say, I am worthy. I am worthy. And let me hear you say, she trade. She trade. All right. All right, so we got a little taste of our sweet soca energy with Miss Dardine Edwards' entry song. Interrupted brilliantly with that fantastic address, I must say. But now we continue the musical energy with melodies that will resonate deep in our DNA. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the piano girl Joanna, joined by Wasia Ward and Nariba Herbert. Check.
Good morning, everyone. Wonderful to be here. track on the stage, please. Shine on, clear mass and break away, freedom in my DNA. Thank you so much.
Yes, that was beautiful. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Wynette McIntosh Ambrose. Dr. Wynette McIntosh Ambrose is an engineer turned entrepreneur and two-time Food Network champion, good people to know, with over 2 decades of experience in the medical device, bioengineering, and hospitality industries. Wynette is a veteran of the cardiovascular device industry and holds a patent for the first FDA-approved device for carotid stenting. In her doctoral and postdoctoral research, Wynette combined stem cells and biomaterials to rebuild the layers of the retina and cornea with the ultimate goal of restoring vision in patients with damaged or diseased ocular tissue. The recipient of multiple prestigious academic fellowships, including a National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship and 2 UNCF Merck Research Fellowships for her graduate and postdoctoral work. Wynette founded the Sweet Lobby, a Capitol Hill-based leading retail and wholesale producer of French-inspired pastries in 2011. Under Wynette's leadership, the Sweet Lobby, founded on the ethos of craft, community, and culture, has grown from neighborhood treasure to national brand. Known for its sharp and distinctive retail branding and innovative flavor combinations, the Sweet Lobby and sister store, Souk, by the Sweet Lobby, supply discerning clientele throughout the USA, including some of the nation's premier food retailers, luxury brands, and coffee shops. The Sweet Lobby was the first food-related destination of Dr. Jill Biden as the First Lady of the United States of America. Wynette is a recipient of several awards, including the James Baird Foundation Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Fellowship, the Mayor's Advisory Commission on Caribbean Community Affairs Award, and the National Caribbean Heritage Trailblazer Award. Wynette lives in Washington, D.C. with her husband and children. She is passionate about the dual role of an arts and STEM education in creating successful entrepreneurs. Wynette was born and raised right here in Trinidad and Tobago and holds bachelor's degrees in chemical engineering and French from Massachusetts Institute of Technology and a PhD in biomedical engineering from Johns Hopkins University. She completed her postdoctoral training at the National Eye Institute of the National Institute of Health. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Dr. Wynette McIntosh Ambrose.
Well, thank you very much for the very, very kind introduction. There seem to be a few things in that that didn't quite follow, didn't quite make sense. I hope to elucidate a bit as we chat this morning. Mrs. Rowley, the Honorable Senator Paula Gopi-Schoon, Ministers of Government, Permanent Secretaries, distinguished guests and students, It is such a pleasure to be here today. I am thrilled to have the honor of addressing you. So, you heard some interesting things there. You heard some fancy degrees and some patents, and then you heard cupcakes, and you're thinking, either she's completely out of her mind or she's onto something, right? Well, we'll see. Today I'm going to chat with you about what I like to call the road less traveled. Specifically, how a completely illogical, common sense defying career path turned out to be one of my biggest competitive advantages. And the hope is that in chatting a bit about my path and the twists and turns, you will see a number of commonalities in your own pathways and see how you too can change setbacks into your competitive advantages. All right, so the linear career path. So this is what we're taught, right? This is the kind of the tale that we are spun ever since we're young girls, right? And not to discourage here, but you're doing the right thing. You want to go to school, you want to study hard, you want to achieve as much as you can. You set your goals, you decide the school that you want to go to, you focus on your studies, you get a good job, and in this particular career path, you see school, you see internship, you see progression along a career path. But it may look not quite like that. Oops. There we go. It can also look like this, where you see a bit more of a circuitous path taking place. You have school, maybe you do a little internship, maybe you get laid off, you become an associate, then perhaps you become a manager, and then you go abroad, you do a pivot, some online classes, and then bam, an entrepreneur. All right? Does that sound familiar to some of you? Right. You know, I think it's about time we normalize that career paths are not a straight line. We take circuitous paths, all of us, especially if one thing you don't see here is have a baby, take some time off, have another baby, and so on. But you know, we're a group of women. Let's face these realities, right? These are very much part of a natural part of what our lives look like. And then there's sort of what my completely logical, common sense defying career path looked like. I went to, and we'll talk about this as we progress, but did undergrad, then moved on to an entry-level R&D engineering position in the medical device industry, and then graduated or left that company in the capacity of a senior engineer and project lead, and then went to graduate school, did a PhD, and postdoc, and then a very, very long and winding path to becoming an entrepreneur. So let's talk about that. I am obviously from Trinidad and Tobago, born and raised. This is a slide that I often use to sort of orient people as to where exactly Trinidad and Tobago is, but I don't need to do that here. You know, there's so much that's unique about our wonderful islands, and as you chat more and more with audiences abroad, there's so much that you take for granted when you talk about our wonderful Twin Island Republic. The fact that you can have coexisting in one place, beautiful, lush greenery, and stunning seaside scapes, and at the same time, skyscrapers and oil and gas. There's so much that's unique to who we are and what indeed makes us who we are. And then family, all about family. So this, of course, is my family, mom and dad, and my 3 brothers. Everybody knows that I have 1 brother. I'm sure some of you know as well. People often ask me about my brother, but I do have 2 other brothers. Shh. I'm actually the eldest and only girl. And then you have Stuart. Stuart is the Batman here. And then this is Timothy in the red, who's now bald. And then Mark is the baby on the end there. This is an older picture. Marcus got married a couple years ago, and actually this is a photograph from his wedding. I like to think that I am the best looking, but I think the ladies might disagree. But this is my little family, and indeed a few years ago, we had the opportunity to all gather, and you can see some of the children here. I think this is actually all of the children. My boys at the bottom, who are quite a bit older now. And then you have my niece and nephew, and then Timothy. We had to crop him in because he lives in Spain. But you get the picture, though. Very, very family-oriented. What was life growing up for me in that wonderful family? So both my parents, mom and dad, absolutely phenomenal. Talk about a marriage that just was well-lived. Parents who I genuinely never saw fighting. I knew they disagreed, but I never saw them fighting. They had the best, most wholesome relationship, and I have to say it makes such a difference in the outcome. It's not necessarily fully going to determine who you are, but the parents that you have and how you invest in them. My mom worked every day of my life growing up, but I don't ever have that as a negative association. I see that she worked hard every day. She was a public servant for 30-something years in the Ministry of Social Welfare, and I have just the very best memories of that. I think the biggest thing that my parents gave to me was a sense of possibility. What they showed me is that regardless of bank account, regardless of what seemed obvious in terms of means, that you were not limited. It never occurred to me at any point along the way that even though there was no bank account full of money for college, that I would not go to whatever college I could get into. And I think that sense of the biggest earthly gift that they gave to me was a sense of possibility. So let's talk about nerd life. I was a nerd, very much so, growing up. This is what I did in my spare time. I entered science and inventors competitions. This was back in the day. Back then it was called the Neil and Massey Innovators and Inventors Competition. And I won that competition a couple of times. This was the name of the project. It was called Euroco because it was a combination of coconut and urea. We have an abundance of urea and a bunch of coconuts too. And so I developed a series of chemical compounds that could aid in the oil and gas harvesting process. We could talk more about that later. I also had the distinguished privilege, I think I'm going to say privilege, of doing my A-levels at Queen's Royal College. One of a handful of girls. And this was the year that I brought the prize to Queen's Royal College. First girl ever. And this was, thank you, a lot of fun. So it's like more trophies than I could carry. So I had all my friends carrying it as well. And then we have this great picture of Minister Jean Pei. I'm sure some of you remember her, who had presented this CARICOM Youth Award. And so this is my life in high school. A lot of goals related to building a resume that didn't necessarily have anything to do with academics. So I want to encourage you. You know, we're very, very focused on academics here, which is critical, right? The exams, we're super exam focused. But think about what you could do outside of the classroom, especially if you are looking to go to university in the United States, where it's quite different from the British system that we're used to, right? So think about interesting things that you can do, ways that you can build up your portfolio that have nothing to do with academics. All right, so what am I thinking? Look at me, I felt I was so fancy. I think I had my hair up, it was a special occasion, you know? Anyways, I am thinking, woo, MIT, here I come. So I found out that there was this college named MIT. And there were a couple of girls at Bishop's where I was up to O-levels, up to CXC, that had gone to Bishop's. It is so important to see possibility in others. There were two girls who were ahead of me who had gone to MIT. That's how I knew about it and got this idea in my head that I could go there too. And there we go. Applied, got in, among other things. I also met my husband, who went to Fatima, is also a Trini. We've been married now for 25 years, if you could believe it, but that's another story. MIT is an amazing, amazing place. it's where I discovered that not only could I do the engineering I wanted to do, but I could also follow my interest, my passion for languages. Now keep thinking of that, languages. That might help other things to make more sense. All right, so at MIT I realized that this sort of nerdy, big-haired chick really, really loved being surrounded by things French. I had the opportunity in my sophomore year to study abroad in Paris, and that was an awakening for me. I went from being a complete nerd who knew nothing about food, turned up her nose when her mother tried to give her some recipes as she was leaving for college, to a nerd who now wanted to perfect all the pastries in all the shop windows in Paris. And so that was what led me to an interest in pastries. But there's a detour. The first detour was the medical device industry, as we heard about. So anybody know what a stent is? What's a stent? Somebody want to tell me what a stent is? Exactly, yeah, they're little metal tubes that are typically laser etched. They're inserted into arteries in order to open them up to allow blood flow. This was the first project I worked on out of school. People are going to tell you in life that you could only do one thing, that you have to stay on the pathway, but I'm going to tell you otherwise. I'm going to tell you that you strive for excellence in everything that you do, whether it is medical devices or cupcakes, right? So this was the very first project, designed a delivery system to get a stent from outside the body to into the body. And then was Hopkins. I just always wanted to do a PhD. I was convinced that I was going to be a professor, and so applied to my dream school to do my PhD, and my focus then was on the eye. The back of the eye and front of the eye. The back of the eye being the retina, where the images are formed, and the front of the eye where the light goes through. So for my PhD research, I focused on the front of the eye, so the cornea, and then for my postdoctoral research, the back of the eye. And that was at the National Eye Institute. This is me in all my glamorous glory in the lab. Don't you love it? The hair pulled all the way back, looking very sciencey. And this is one of my mentors, Anand Swarup, at the National Eye Institute. It was a fantastic time, and I want to tell you, I was incredibly torn about becoming an entrepreneur. And we'll talk more about kind of what my sort of decision points were, but this was my life for a number of years. And sometime in the middle of 2010, I gave this little guy a call. You recognize him? He was the one with the long dreads, who's now bald. We're 10 years apart, though I like to tell people that people often assume that I'm younger, obviously, but we're actually 10 years apart. And I called him up. He was on his way, almost on his way. He's leaving Boston to come back to Trinidad and Tobago to work with BP at the time, actually. And I said, you're going to work for BP? They just had a big oil spill. We're not going to talk about oil spills here today. But I was like, you want to go and do that? You should come move to DC and help me open a bakery. And he said, yeah. And that was that. That's what you call the power of a persuasive big sister. Yeah. We do run things, the big sisters. Anybody has a big sister, you know that. We do run things. And so in June 11th of 2011, which happens to be my wedding anniversary as well, that was the next stage, this crazy, winding career path. When together we opened the Sweet Lobby, a boutique right on Capitol Hill. The name, the Sweet Lobby, has to do with the location in Washington, D.C., the idea of being an advocate for your sweet tooth, lobbying for your sweet tooth, and there's also a little connection to MIT as well. Now, Timothy also went to MIT, also studied chemical engineering. He basically followed me, right? I laid a path out for him, and he followed it. So yes, we did this together, and he was with us for about a year. Side note, Timothy met his now wife at the Sweet Lobby. She literally walked in to buy hazelnut praline, salted caramel macaron. I am not kidding.
If you ever meet him, please ask him about the hazelnut praline salted caramel macaron that basically, my recipe that gave him his future wife. Anyway, so this is us within our very first year. Now, Timothy, you could tell he's a bit vain, right? He looks vain to you, right? Yeah, he's vain. He really likes himself. But it was all about, he really was interested in being on television. He really wanted to be on TV, doing reality TV, and I was not having it. I was not interested in it at all. I was like, oh gosh, no, I mean, that just seems so like flighty and frivolous, like, no, let's just do this thing, you know? But he was like, no, we would be so made for TV, man. Horse, we had to do this. So, Horse did this. We eventually, under his direction, shot an audition video. And the whole premise was like these two siblings from MIT, chemical engineers who want to bake cupcakes, and it was just this hilarious thing. And within half an hour of submitting the video, we were casted for the show. And we won. A phenomenal experience to have with your brother. I was a lot skinnier then. This is the other downside of opening a pastry business, but we won't talk about that. And just a phenomenal experience, being able to bring something like this to life on national TV and then have it roll over and over and over and over. It's the advertisement that you can't pay for, really, really critical for us in those initial stages of our growth. And I'm actually wearing the same pendant here. You could see this is my Liz Manette steel pan pendant that is very near and dear to me. This is us in the finale where we had to do 1,000 cupcakes with a Chinese New Year theme. And then a few years later, so I would say that Timothy has gone on to do his own amazing things. He's with us for a year and has gone on, has done his master's at Harvard in education, and is currently working with Google and also does some consultancy in education and is doing incredibly well. But on February 11th, 2015, I opened a second shop. This one called Souk by the Sweet Lobby. So the idea here, to be honest, how it all came about, we were randomly, out of nowhere, approached by Whole Foods Market. Who knows what Whole Foods Market is? Yeah? So it's a pretty well-known, sort of wholesome, somewhat organic grocery store in the US. It's now owned by Amazon. We were approached by Whole Foods because they had our product, they had the macaron, they just come in, eaten them, and said, hey, we want to carry you in our mid-Atlantic stores. I was summoned to a meeting just like that. I almost didn't get the card of the person who came, but somehow I got it. And next thing you know, I'm sitting at the Mid-Atlantic headquarters with a team of buyers who say, hey, can you start supplying us in 2 months, 50 stores? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Not having a clue how this would all come together. But there were a couple of things that worked in my favor, and that gets back to the power of a non-linear path. So I had no professional experience in baking and pastry when I started this company. All the experience I had was just me tinkering on my own over several years. The first time I used a commercial mixer, you know those big mixers with the, any bakers in here? I know we have some, yes, you know those big mixers with the massive bowls? It was like 3 days before we opened the shop, and I was like, how on earth? I almost started to cry. I was like, I can't lift it up, it's so heavy, I only made the small ones. Anyway, but here am I committing to Whole Foods and not really knowing the logistics of how I could do it, but we had on this very same street another bakery that went out of business. The business was called Hello Cupcake, so goodbye Cupcake, and we took over their facility. And we immediately moved in and we were able to start doing production. We didn't have to get any new certification, no change of use or anything like that required because it was already a bakery. So that was the first thing that made it easy for us to say yes. So we basically figured out how to make thousands and thousands of macaron at a time. So here's how my experience in engineering came in handy here. So as a young engineer working at Guidon Corporation, where I was doing stents and delivery systems, what we did was come up with a concept, a really beautiful, clean concept that we designed from scratch at the bench, and then figure out how to make many, many thousands of them to implant in human beings, as in they have to stay together, they have to be rigorously tested. So this is what I come from, figuring out how to make something well on a small scale and then to blow it up. Applied the same methodology really in baking. So that's one of the things I love about high production baking in particular. The creativity is great, small volume is great, but it's even more amazing when you can make thousands of a product so incredibly well that people think you just made 10 in your kitchen. And that mindset really helped drive us to be able to fulfill that commitment of supplying within a really short space of time. The other aspect, the other reason we were able to move into Whole Foods so quickly has to do with packaging. Packaging, which is not a very glamorous aspect of wholesale business. Retail business, often you have a very beautiful, attractive packaging that has to attract a customer, but wholesale is a different animal. Wholesale, when a wholesale client purchases something from you, chances are that they're not looking for pretty packaging. They're looking for something that they can open up, take the stuff out, and then sell it to their customers, potentially in their own packaging. But in the medical device industry, one of the very first things that we do when we start to make a device is design the packaging. Because guess what? You could have an amazing device that works incredibly well, but if you don't have a way to put it in the hands of a physician many, many thousands of miles away and have it function the same and not fall apart during transit, then you don't have a marketable product. So somehow, in the back of my mind, way back in the beginning of 2010, mid-2010, when Timothy and I were coming up with concepts, I said, look, we need snazzy retail packaging, but we also need a packaging because one day we'll have wholesale. Because this is what I was trained to do for medical devices. So at that meeting with Whole Foods, he looks at me. This is, his name was Gerard. He's a Belgian pastry chef who had transitioned to being a bakery manager for Whole Foods. And he said, what about your packaging? Do you have packaging? And I was like, yeah, I have packaging. Because I literally had a container of packaging that I had purchased from the manufacturer that we worked with in China, literally sitting there in a warehouse, because I had this feeling that one day we would need wholesale packaging. And that is how we were able to, within a couple of months, make our first shipment of French macaron for Whole Foods. So again, it's that non-linear path coming to bear. So this is who we are. The company is called the Sweet Lobby, and we have a couple of different brands sort of under the Sweet Lobby umbrella, but we are artisanally crafted, French-inspired pastries for wholesale and retail. We're, again, founded on the ethos of craft, community, and culture. And what is it that we do? What's our brand identity? I am a huge part of the brand. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. I come with an international background, not only being from Trinidad and Tobago, but having lived and traveled all over the world. I'm a scientist. I speak French, lived in Paris, have an appreciation for French pastries. We are very clean when it comes to our branding, when it comes to the presence in the stores. We also have souk, which actually became souk because we started production in the back of house, right, to meet the Whole Foods orders. But we now had this front of house space and we needed something to do with it. So I was like, okay, let's do a globally inspired pastry shop where we play with other types of French pastry. So things like croissants, biscuits, scones, that kind of thing. And a few years later, Food Network came calling. Well, they had been calling a lot, but remember, who did not want to do any TV at all? And by now, the brother is gone doing his own things, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that again. No more TV. But it was Chopped. And I was like, well, if I could win Chopped, that would give me some serious street cred. Remember, I am not a trained baker or chef in any way. So I'm like, if I could somehow manage to beat some trained chefs, so like on the line every day, that would be really cool. That would really give me a lot of street cred. And my husband was like, you have to do it. My staff was like, you have to do it. And I won Chopped a few years later. So a little bit more on who we are. What's our vision? So our previous speaker, Akusoa, spoke beautifully about the importance of a clear vision, of knowing who you are, knowing what your brand is. I couldn't agree with that more. A clear vision and a clear mission, super important. So we aim to inspire daily delight through exceptional food, generous hospitality, and joy-driven attention to detail. We want to create lasting, positive impact in our communities through exceptional food experiences, joyfully crafted, and so on. A little bit about who we are. We have about 20 employees, 2 retail locations, 1 main production facility, many production lines, and clients throughout the US. About 85% wholesale and 15% retail. And I will be honest with you, the pandemic was hard. It was extremely hard. We almost didn't make it. We made it ultimately because of wholesale, because of having diverse streams of revenue. All right, so it's a really glamorous picture, right? All the macro in the background, the camera and so on. This is a person who did not want to do TV at all. Huh? But that is the packaging that I was referring to. That right there is the reason that we got into Whole Foods. Just some other examples of our branding. And those, we call them clamshells. That is the unit of our wholesale packaging. And the reason, again, that we were able to access that opportunity really quickly. So I just want to point out that, you know, when you're in science, you generally don't wear makeup, your hair's up in a bun, and you're stuck in a lab coat, but you know, you could also be really glamorous on TV with like colorful macro. You see, it's transformative, this entrepreneurship thing, I'll tell you. A little shot from Chopped. This is my competitor. This is the very, very final round. He is a Michelin-starred chef in Las Vegas. And this Trini girl, who is not trained as a professional chef, somehow was able to beat him. That is, you can see the sweat literally dripping off my face. It was an amazing moment, very high stress, but I don't know if I'll do it again though, you know. It was fun. So non-linearity on your own terms. Don't be afraid to take the path less traveled. Don't be afraid of changing course, right? What does non-linearity look like on your own terms? So these are sort of some of my guiding principles. You're doing something and you think it's time to finish it off, maximize what you can do in that specific field. Finish it well, right? If you're in the midst of a key project on the job and you know you want to leave to do something that you feel called to, finish that well. Don't leave the people high and dry, right? Finish well. You have to be agile enough to recognize your passions and callings, even though those might be different to what you officially studied. Understand that seemingly disparate career experiences like designing packaging or knowing how to scale up designs, know that these can give you a really, really unique perspective or competitive advantage, but you don't know until you know. And never view any of your life's experiences in isolation. Everything matters. And finally, the final slide, really shout out a woman who is my greatest role model, and that's my maternal grandmother. She passed away about 3 weeks before I defended my doctoral thesis. I was really touched that Akusoa also talked about her grandmother. This is mine. She migrated here from St. Vincent. She had 5 children. She lost her husband at the age of 44, raised all 5 entirely on her own. And this is her, a few years before she died, surrounded by all of her grandchildren, except for one. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. McIntosh Ambrose, for your captivating and motivating keynote address. Your insights into entrepreneurship, innovation, and the intersection of arts have left us all, I'm sure, inspired and invigorated. At this time, I invite Senator, the Honorable Paula Gopi-Schoon, to make a presentation to Ms. Sharon Rowley. Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the close, I would like to invite Mrs. Candice Larkin-Singh, Director of Strategy, Business Facilitation, and Program Management, to officially close the seminar.
Thank you. Mrs. Sharon Rowley, Senator the Honorable Paula Gopi-Schoon, Minister of Trade and Industry, the Honorable Camille Robinson-Regis, Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Senator the Honorable Alison West, Minister of Public Administration, Gatsby Dolly, Minister of Education, the Honorable Ayanna Webster Roy, Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Gender and Child Affairs, the Honorable Lisa Morris Julian, Minister in the Ministry of Education, Mr. Randall Karim, Acting Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Trade and Industry, distinguished speakers, Dr. Gwyneth McIntosh Ambrose and Ms. Akuswa Dardine Edwards, specially invited guests, women of Trinidad and Tobago She Trades Hub, students of our young future leaders, teachers, staff of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Export TT, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As we come to the end of the formal proceedings for our She Trades International Women's Day Business Seminar, our minds are motivated, and we are now filled with the adrenaline to keep going, to make sure that we are counted in, to invest in ourselves and accelerate our progress by taking our businesses to the next level. A special thank you to Mrs. Rowley. Your presence shows your support for the women present here today. This morning, you have been welcomed by a true champion of entrepreneurship in Trinidad and Tobago, Senator the Honorable Paula Gopi-Schoon, who has taken a personal interest in this She Trades event to ensure that you, our female entrepreneur, business leaders, leave inspired to continue your very important role in building our economy. Minister, I thank you. You have heard your successes acknowledged globally by the ITC, listened firsthand to the testimonial of the very accomplished Ms. Tricia Chin, and also the video presentation which showed all our She Trades Hub women and how they benefited. You have swayed to the music of 3 exceptional female artists, the piano girl Joanna, Miss Wazia Ward, and Miss Nariba Herbert. Thank you all for your contributions. Thank you to our speakers for your insightful messages, Ms. Dardine Edwards, who shared the success that can be derived for both you and your business from decisions that come from a sense of innate worthiness, remember, you are worthy. And to Dr. McIntosh Ambrose, who shared that her non-linear path from engineering to entrepreneurship has prepared her to access key opportunities, and in doing so, she has encouraged participants to turn apparent setbacks into competitive advantages to build long-term resilience in their own businesses. Each moment has been a reminder of the incredible potential that lies within each one of us. Thank you to all our ministers, specially invited guests, all our female leaders present here today and joining us virtually, our students and their teachers for taking the time to attend this event. You are a valued partner. Of course, our host, another woman in business, Ms. Bovell, for taking us through our agenda so aptly, and to the staff of MTI and Export TT for all your hard work. Finally, although we formally close the event with these remarks, we have the opportunity today to interact with other women on the Hub. And if you have not yet joined the platform, I hope that you are now encouraged to join the She Trades Hub. To our female business students, continue to pursue your studies and begin conceptualizing your business with you as the leader. As from today's event, I am certain that you are convinced that it is possible. As we leave this empowering event, let us continue to push boundaries, challenge assumptions, and continue to support and uplift women in business, creating a more inclusive and successful future for all. Happy International Women's Day. I thank you.
At this time, I would like to invite Mrs. Rowley, Minister of Trade and Industry, and her colleague ministers, and both speakers on the stage for a group picture. We invite everyone else to remain seated until Mrs. Rowley and other specially invited guests depart the auditorium. After the ministers have exited, please do follow to enjoy the refreshments, hopefully by Dr. McIntosh Ambrose, which will be served to all as you exit the auditorium. The ushers would guide you accordingly. While the picture is being taken, let me remind you to join the local She Trades platform. The QR code is available at the registration desk. The piano girl Johanna will provide us with a sweet musical backdrop during the photo op session. Thank you to everyone in the room and our virtual audience joining us on the TTT and live stream social media. Happy International Women's Day. Goodbye.
This is TTT. Live for local.
by 20, 50 by 25.
This is Kyron Pollard. When you play, do it the legal way. Don't bet.